What if fashion could do more than just dress people? What if it could change lives? Sophia, you and Kyle have known each other since your days at FIDM, and have stayed connected ever since. So, why don't you do the honors and introduce our guest?
Absolutely. So today's guest is someone proving that fashion can be so much more than beautiful clothing. It can be a force for social change. Kyle Denman is an award-winning fashion designer, artist, executive director of Bridging the Gap, and his work has been worn by icons like Beyoncé and Lady Gaga. It has been showcased in fashion weeks around the world and recognized with honors, including Forbes 30 Under 30 and International Fashion Designer of the Year. But beyond the runway, Kyle is passionate about using creativity to empower underserved communities and inspire meaningful change. Kyle, we're so excited to have you on the show and welcome.
Thank you so much. Grateful to be here. And it's good to
Thank
see you both.
you. Thank you for being with us. I haven't seen you in a long time, and for
Mhm.
our audience, Kyle was a student of mine back in the day at FIDM, and I have a little story to tell you guys. And Kyle, this is a picture.
I remember that day.
That is a picture of me and Kyle in the classroom. And what's interesting is there's two little stories. As I was showing this to Sophia, she goes, "Hey, that's me in the background." I go, "What? Seriously?" Because yeah, that's me in the background. So I had no idea who that was. And the second little story is that, I would do a little demo, and then all the students would go to their desks and work on their projects. And I would go around and looking at different projects. And, I got to Kyle, and, I'm looking at it and just trying to give a little critique, a little, maybe if you do this, if you do. And he's like, "No, no, no, it's okay. I got this. Don't worry about it. I got this." I'm going, "Okay." we have a special, amazing student slash designer here. So anyway, just a little retro story there. So again, welcome to the podcast. And so you graduated from FIDM. Why don't you take us back to those early days? You graduated. You're out into the world. What's next? What tell us? Give us a little history. What happened?
Yeah, so I mean, first off, my time at FIDM was incredible. I still think about almost 10 years ago at this point, moving to Los Angeles to pursue fashion design. And for me, it was a really interesting experience because I had come into the fashion design program as someone who already had a bachelor's degree. I had come in with a degree in political science, and so now it's really exciting to be able to combine sort of the passions that I have of not only art and design, but also my love of policy and then education on top of that. So as soon as I graduated from FIDM, well, first off, I graduated with the first program in fashion design with Sophia, and I was fortunate to be the valedictorian. And then she and I immediately went into the advanced program to be part of the debut runway show. So she and I have been taking a lot of classes together at that point, and we were really kind of in each other's circles at that point. And then after graduating from the debut program, I immediately went into teaching art and design full time, specifically working with youth from under-resourced communities. So some of the young people that I have worked with are gang affiliated or have been systems involved, have experienced things like trafficking or housing insecurity. So working with some of these populations that are incredibly overlooked and incredibly underserved. And what we saw through just a couple of days of my working and volunteering with these populations, specifically at the time I was working with high school aged and transitional aged youth, is that they started showing up more. And they didn't have access all the time to the arts until this moment. And that changed everything for them. And it was really profound and exciting to see that literally just by introducing art or fashion or painting into a child's life, that could change everything for them. I think so often we see so many budget cuts. We see so much criticism of the arts for being something that's more of a luxury. But really, I've been able to see firsthand that the arts are not a luxury. They are really a necessity for so many people.
Was that a moment, an experience that really changed the direction of your work, of your career, and that made you want to focus more on community and empowerment? Do you feel that that was a moment, a pivotal moment, maybe?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I'm sure Nino, you can definitely relate to this of being an educator. It's a calling. It's not just a career. And for me, I have always loved being an educator and being able to see and introduce young people into the arts, but specifically fashion. It's incredibly not just rewarding and fulfilling, but it really is expanding what the creative economy looks like. I'm proud to say that. Three of my students who just graduated from high school this past semester are actually all going to the University of Arts in London for fashion design.
Wow,
So
that's
it's been
great.
exciting to be able to really cultivate what this looks like, but while also creating really powerfully transformative friendships for myself and relationships. While also still being able to continue my own design practice. I've been really fortunate that I've been able to work, like Sophia said, with some really incredible um, clients and icons, which some of those opportunities really just kind of fell into my lap in such an incredible way that I'm so grateful for my experiences with
Mm.
them and just my journey overall.
Yeah, and I mean, how did you end up working with Lady Gaga or Beyonce? Can you give us a little insight on that?
Yeah, so when I actually worked with Beyonce in 2018, so while I was a student at FIDM, and I actually got a call from someone a little bit older than me, a mentor of mine, who said, "Hey, you're going to get a call from someone, answer it and say yes." And so that was a mentor of mine who I don't know how they got the opportunity to work with Beyonce at the time, but the team asked them, who do you trust and recommend for an opportunity like this? And I was fortunate enough to be that person that they thought of. So that was an incredible experience. And I think again that really goes into the power of relationships that you have with mentors and mentees.
Mhm.
Then with Lady Gaga, I kind of just got a phone call from someone on the East Coast. It was like 7 in the morning our time. And I got a call, and very similarly, it, it was just asking, "Hey, Lady Gaga's performing at Coachella this year. We need some people. We know that you've worked with Beyonce before. Would you be interested?" And it's like, "Yeah, absolutely." It's like, just, tell me what to do. And they said, "Okay, we have 4 days. Can you be at the studio tonight?" And I was like, "Okay, 4 days for 34 outfits. Awesome."
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, yeah. And I
34
started
outfits.
that night with the patterns for the women's wear looks and or for the femme models. And that was nerve-wracking because as we all know, much of the things that we work on start with pattern making. And I was there flat patterning everything, and because the team was still being assembled at the time, and everyone's just sort of staring at me like, okay, like, is this looking good? It's like, okay, like as I was working on everything. Unfortunately, it all panned out really, really well.
That's amazing. Were you able to have a team sew it up for you, or did you solo the entire assembly of everything? That's
No, we
super
eventually had a small team. So for the fem team specifically, we had 4 people. And then there were, I think, about 7 people for the mask models or for the mask dancers that we worked with. But I patterned everything, and once we sent the sample out to have an initial fitting, it worked out well. Then we sent off the patterns to be cut out of the fabric, and then from there we got everything back, and we had a huge team assembly line going of sewing this seam or that seam, installing the zipper, and it was exciting. Honestly, it was really fun. And I think just knowing what we were able to accomplish in such a short amount of time was such a bonding experience, and such a fun experience. It was exhilarating, and we got to do it. And Lady Gaga has always been someone I've always wanted to work with, so it was really kind of a dream come true.
I've also seen that you've done a lot of runways, so you've had the opportunity to show your work consistently. I'd love to know how you were managing these two different sides of yourself as a designer, and how you got all those wonderful opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer your question, Sophia, it's tough time-wise. I'm grateful again that it all sort of intersects together. So what I'm doing creatively is fulfilling me and supporting my career as an executive at a nonprofit for the arts. But that's also fueling and inspiring me in terms of my design practice. So it all goes hand in hand. I just wish that there were more hours in the day. Um, I've been really fortunate to be given the opportunity to do so many runway shows. I've shown in um, New York, Los Angeles, Vancouver, and Milan Fashion Weeks, and we'll be showing in Paris Fashion Week this fall. For advice for anyone watching this who wants to get introduced to different runway shows or fashion weeks, I would say reach out to the various production companies, even if it's a smaller one to start off, because oftentimes those smaller production companies are geared towards independent designers who are just starting out to, again, make the industry more accessible for people.
Going back to the work that you've done with underserved communities, I think there's a lot of us that would love to know from your perspective, since we've been in the weeds, what are the things that you would want us to know? Like what what charities can we support, or how can we make a difference? What outreach is needed? Just from somebody who's so involved, I'm sure our audience would love to know what's needed, and what you recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely just say, because I'm the executive director of a nonprofit, Arts Bridging the Gap, always looking for more support there. Because we're such a small grassroots organization, I was hired to be the executive director 3 years ago, and we're a tiny team. If you look at our tax forms, a few years ago, the operating budget was about $58,000, and now we're at over 500,000. So it's grown tremendously, but it's still very small compared to other organizations that have a huge donor base, that have a lot of longevity. But what I love about Arts Bridging the Gap is that we are working so directly with these communities and responding to their needs in such holistic ways. It's not just introducing the arts to a child. It is going so much further beyond that. It is introducing them to life skills and really diving deeply into social emotional learning, and being able to develop project-based skills. So, in examples with our visual arts painting programs, our programs culminate in painting murals. So we just painted a mural that was an entire city block. That was all designed by the youth in our program.
Wow.
So we're doing some really exciting things. We have a gardening arts program where students who are receiving special education services at different schools are actually tending to these gardens and these farms all across LA County. So that's one thing I love about Arts Bridging the Gap is that people can support us in so many different ways. Obviously, money is always important for any nonprofit to be able to operate, but also because we're such a community-based organization, that people want to come by and help us paint that mural with the youth that we're serving, that people want to come by and support our gardens, that people want to come by and help us clean out our storage unit with all of the painting and art supplies, that is all equally welcomed. And so that's just one organization that I love working with. Another organization that's very close to my heart, which is a more national organization, is the Fashion Scholarship Fund. They actually funded me when we were in the debut program with a small scholarship, and they flew me out to New York. So they support college-age students in getting really incredible real-world opportunities, professional development opportunities, specifically in fashion design. They actually have continued to support me. This past year, they opened up or and started a high school pipeline program. So it kind of this big award nationwide with opportunities to speak with industry professionals from various organizations and companies. And it was exciting. Out of 19 students who got the award, five of them were ABG kids, were Arts Bridging the Gap students. So again, youth from under-resourced communities. They flew me out to Art Basel 3 years ago, and that was a wild experience. So what I love about them is that in many ways they are sort of taking on the next step after Arts Bridging the Gap, right? After Arts Bridging the Gap, after ABG, our youth have these newfound personal, interpersonal skills And then now with Fashion Scholarship Fund, they are given the opportunity to take it to the next level of like professional skills. So that's another organization that I love working with, and they've been such a huge asset to me in my own personal life and my own professional life too.
And how about if there's like a high school student watching this and they want to bring more consciousness to the arts in their high school, in their middle school? What would you recommend for that person?
Yeah, I mean, depending on where they're located, if they're located in Los Angeles County, reach out to me because we will advocate for you. I am fortunate enough to be also on the policy committee for Arts for LA. So we get to do a lot of really interesting work at the intersection of the arts and policy to increase like arts education funding for various communities. But I would say one of the most important things for any student is to be able to advocate for themselves, to talk with a trusted adult at their school, and to say, how can we be co-creators in this experience? How can you, as an adult, maybe it's a teacher or an administrator, be a champion for us at that level? So that way we have the opportunity to get there and to speak to the people we need to make these opportunities possible.
Your work is inspiring, Kyle.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a very cliche question, which I'm sure people have asked you a million times. But what inspires you as a creative artist, as a designer? What is it? What turns you on, so to speak, and inspires your creative ideas?
Yeah, I'm really inspired by the idea of storytelling. So I'm inspired by being able to take a story and reinterpret it in my own way. I would say that I really try and focus on as much narrative as possible, weaving in allegories into the work I'm doing, especially for a runway show, where those looks are not necessarily meant to be sellable. They're meant to evoke emotion from people. They're meant to be a performance in many ways. Um, so that is something that really inspires me is this idea of being able to share stories on different stages that sometimes can be a little controversial, but can also really allow a person to explore something new through what I'm showing. In terms of creating outfits for specific clients, I do a lot of a lot of bridal dresses. I do a lot of gala dresses, and so I've had work at the at the Oscars and at various galas. And it's the same thing, being able to tell a story. But at that point, it's not telling necessarily my story. It's telling, our story, working with a client and being able to showcase, well, what do you want to be able to say and present yourself as on this red carpet or at this event or at walking down the aisle? What would make you feel comfortable in sharing your story? And what would make you feel comfortable just in general, like physically speaking. So that's also really exciting because at that point, it's not just telling a story, it's co-creating that story with someone else in ways that you might be inspired and challenged that in ways that you would never normally expect by working by yourself.
I'm
Great.
really curious then, how would you describe your own aesthetic, right? Apart from your clients, but you obviously have to create your own name and brand for your runway show. So how would what's your elevator pitch?
Yeah, so I would say my style is pretty avant-garde. I focus quite a bit on really architectural silhouettes, thinking about how to redesign elements in a way that might be a little bit more non-traditional, and really focusing on how to encapsulate a story within however many looks I'm creating. For Milan Fashion Week, for example, I was trying to tell a really dark, sort of harrowing story and wanted to focus on utilizing really architectural shapes and silhouettes. I'm constantly inspired by people who are innovative, and I think the most innovative designer of all time was Cristobal Balenciaga. And I was able to actually recreate one of his dresses, not with Gazar, but with felt, actually. And that was exciting to be able to manipulate the material in a way that I wasn't sure if it was going to work. Even creating this brocade jacket with these huge rounded sleeves. I wasn't sure how to do that at first. And then I was just having fun with it and being able to play with the architecture on the interior of the outfit. It was a lot of fun. And so yeah, I like to focus quite a bit on storytelling and really cool, fun silhouettes.
What would you say to a 17-year-old student watching this episode? Any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I would say is pursue your passion.
Mm.
For me, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be an artist. And growing up, I was always told that that wasn't the most practical thing to do. And so I went into my next love, which was law and policy. And I graduated with a degree in political science. And I fell back in love with the arts because I was doing research with Scripps gerontology on the impact of the arts on people who have dementia and Alzheimer's. And that was something so profound that I wanted to translate that work I was doing with people who were essentially at the very late stages of their lives to a community that could be, that could use that support and be impacted in a similar way much earlier in their lives. So I've been fortunate to translate that, but I sometimes wish I had started earlier in the arts. I wish I
Mm.
had pursued fashion and the idea of being an artist earlier in my life. I don't necessarily regret that decision that I took a slightly non-traditional path, but that's some advice that I have for anyone watching or listening to this. And the next piece of advice is like create meaningful relationships. It is so important, especially in an industry like fashion, but really any industry, to create meaningful relationships. The majority of opportunities I have gotten in life professionally are somehow stemming back to the relationships I have had with mentors or teachers or friends or colleagues. And it's so exciting to know that while the industry is so small, and I think sometimes the fashion industry gets um, the moniker of being incredibly intense and frustrating and isolating, and that's any industry. I've also seen it as being incredibly collaborative and friendly and full of life and fun. Um, some of those people I met at New York Fashion Week during my very first Fashion Week runway show have become some of my closest friends and collaborators. I remember going in there by myself during fittings, and I saw all these other people who had teams. And now it's exciting to know that I'm going to Milan and Paris Fashion Weeks. And now I have those teams because of all the people I've met, and that we're working together in such a really fun and inspiring way where we get to, again, challenge each other and think differently and think creatively about the work that each of us is doing, in really meaningful ways. So pursue your passion and really develop meaningful, authentic relationships with people.
That's amazing advice. Thank you, Kyle.
Um, I have a question. How do you define success today, and has that definition changed over the years?
Really hard question. And actually, this is a question that I ask some of my students quite often. And I was talking with a student, and he was telling me, he's like, I don't know if I'm as successful as this person. And I'm like, okay, why? And he said, well, they get really good grades and I don't. I'm like, okay, but to me, success looks like at the time a 16-year-old kid going to Los Angeles Fashion Week and presenting some looks with me, going to Orange County Fashion Weeks and presenting looks, going to receiving a big award, and now I'm actually taking him to Paris Fashion Week. To me, that is pretty cool that a lot of other people don't have the opportunity to say. And so I think success really is incredibly relevant to each person. It's really subjective. Um, I will say that my definition of success has definitely changed. I think when I was that age, or even in college years, I thought success was making a lot of money. I thought success was having a lot of friends, having this platform where people knew who I was, and that can be success for people. But right now, for me, success looks like exactly where I'm at, and I think I've grown into that as I've gotten older. Of success looks like wherever any of us is. It's all relative, and every single one of us is successful in our own way that we can't even compare it to anyone else.
Mm. Great.
I would still like to have a lot of money. That'd be great too. But
Wouldn't we all?
yeah, right.
Lots of great, valuable wisdom here, Kyle. I mean, really, we're so grateful. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of
thank you.
course.
Thank you for being with us. And for our audience, if you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your creative friends that are passionate about fashion, creativity, the industry. And so until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and keep designing your future. So until next time, thank you, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.